What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another swatch review for you. So today we are talking about the Orly Spring 2024 collection, which is called Aqua Aura. Now before we get into it, if you haven't heard of Orly before, they are a mainstream salon brand and all of their polishes are vegan, meaning they do not use any animal-derived ingredients. They are cruelty-free, meaning they do not test their products on animals, and they're also listed as being formulated without harmful ingredients. So it does seem like Orly has moved away from the language of like 3 free, 5 free, 20 free, etc. Which honestly I do appreciate because I feel like brands lately have gotten a little bit disingenuous with it. I think actually the highest nail polish can be is actually 10 free, but brands are kind of inflating their numbers artificially a little bit by adding things that wouldn't necessarily be in nail polish anyway. So hopefully this is something we'll see from a lot of brands, but I just wanted to make a quick note of that. But yeah, back to this Aqua Aura collection. We've got 6 brand new polishes, mostly shimmers, and honestly I have a lot of thoughts about these. I was pretty surprised at my feelings on them. So let me show you the swatches first, then we can talk a little bit more about my thoughts, pricing, availability, all that good stuff. So roll the swatch footage. So as with all of my swatch review videos, I am using base coat underneath all of my swatches just to protect my natural nail and prevent any stains. Today I'm using the Orly Bonder base coat. So we'll start off with this shade Sea Spray. This one is a white shimmer. So we've got this creamy white base, and then within that we have this really gorgeous duochromy shimmer that shifts from copper into gold. And immediately on applying this, I was so impressed just with that shimmer because it's so intense. I feel like when you have a shimmer like this in white, it usually kind of gets lost, but I felt like it was just so vibrant on the nails. It really warmed up that white color, so it didn't feel like I was wearing white out on my nails or anything. And then we just got this really beautiful subtle glow coming from it, so I was really pleased with this. I actually loved the way that it looked in 2 coats, but it did have just a slight bit of sheerness, so I ended up putting on a third just to see what that would look like. Honestly, I would probably wear it as a 2-coater most of the time, but I do have short nails, so if you have longer nails or you want more opacity, I feel like 3 coats is probably the way. Next up we have the shade Morning Dew, and this one is more of a seafoam green shimmer. So within that gorgeous minty green base, we have this intense blue shimmer, and again, it was just a really strong shimmer. You could definitely see it. It didn't get lost within that color, and it also cooled down that minty shade a little bit and made it look a little bit more blue. So I thought that was really beautiful. I ended up getting perfect coverage in 2 coats. I thought this one was going to be a 3-coater, but I was really impressed with the opacity, and it was also super self-leveling. This whole collection, even if you're like a little brush strokey or a little imperfect with your application, as soon as it starts to dry, it just levels out so smoothly. So this feels like a very beginner-friendly collection. Next up we have the shade Ripple Effect. This one is a really beautiful, almost periwinkle blue shade. It definitely has that softness and a little bit of that purpley undertone, but I think the real purple undertone comes from that very intense fuchsia purpley shimmer running throughout. And again, just super opaque, really impressive in 2 coats. And I feel like this one was actually a little bit more opaque in the first coat as well, so this would be a really great nail art color, but I just love this combination. I love a pinky purpley blue kind of shade, and Orly happens to do them very well. Moving on, we have the shade Sea Blossom, and this is actually the only cream finish in the collection, and on my nails it definitely gave more of a pinky tone, but I would say this was actually a little bit more of an orchid color. There was definitely a little bit of a softer purpley look to it, but it was strongly pink undertoned, and I think just combined with my very warm skin tone, it looked a little bit more pink. But I was really impressed with this one as well. I thought it was going to be a 3-coater, but it ended up giving me perfect coverage in 2, and again, just so smooth and creamy and easy to use. Shades that are this light, it's very tough to find a good formula, so I was very pleased with this one. And then we have the shade Wistful Water Lily, and this one is a pink shimmer, but what's really interesting about this one is that pinky base color in there is definitely more on the warmer side. It almost has a little yellowy orange kind of undertone to it, but as you build up the opacity, it gets a little bit more cool toned, and I think that's because there's this really intense blue silver shimmer running throughout, and this is such a stunning one. I love almost pearlescent kind of shades like this, but I was really impressed that this one also ended up covering my visible nail line and giving me full opacity in 2 coats. So really gorgeous shade, almost feels like a bridal kind of color, but I feel like this is also just a great neutral shimmery shade to wear. And last but not least, we have the shade Golden Waves, which is sort of this coppery brownish shimmer. And again, we have this really beautiful duochrome shimmer running throughout that shifts from copper into gold. And this was another one I really was not expecting to like, because I feel like these almost brownish orangey copper shades don't really suit me, but this one was a little bit more on the vibrant side. So I feel like it actually worked really well. Definitely gives me a little bit of like a golden hour vibe. And I feel like this is perfect for any time of year as just like a neutral shade that has a little bit of exciting shimmer in it. And again, was really impressed with the opacity, 2 coats. So here are all the shades together, and I have to say I am really into these despite it being a spring collection with typical spring colors. And I was honestly surprised at myself. I'll talk about it a little bit more in a bit, but I think one thing that I really loved about these was how vibrant and saturated they were. We didn't get those typical dusty, creamy kind of colors. We really got a lot of intensity, especially within those shimmers, because we had such strong, vibrant shimmers and they really showed through on the nail, which I thought was so impressive. And I think that's what makes this collection a standout for me. And I also feel like these colors could really work for multiple seasons. They definitely feel like a perfect transition from spring into summer, just with that vibrant color scheme. And I feel like a lot of them are also really good any time of year neutrals. So yeah, let's talk a little bit more about it. So those are the polishes, and I have to say I really enjoyed these, and I'm pretty surprised at myself because I know I've talked about it a lot, but I'm not a huge fan of typical spring colors. And I do feel like these are pretty typical spring colors, but I think having that added contrasty shimmer in them does make them feel totally different to me. And one thing I think I've been realizing lately is that the reason that I'm not a huge fan of typical spring colors is because it's usually very dusty pastel kind of shades. And since I'm already very pale, I feel like there's just not enough contrast with those on my nails. Honestly, I'm always surprised at myself when I enjoy spring collections, but they always tend to be more like this, where it's just not that dusty, pale, muted kind of color. When they're just a little bit brighter, I think they work so much better. So yeah, honestly, I think they're stunning, and I also really appreciate just how much shimmer they've put into each color, because I feel like a lot of times a beautiful shimmer can really get lost in a polish color and you really only see it when the light is hitting it at a certain angle. But I feel like these worked really well and you could really see the colors within them. But I'm so curious to hear what other people think, especially people who do tend to prefer those dusty pastel shades. What do you think of brighter shades like this? I'm curious to hear your thoughts, so let me know in the comments. But yeah, let's get into pricing and availability. All of these polishes come in 18 milliliter bottles, which is absolutely giant. You do get a lot for your money, and they do come with the wide flat brush that has a rounded tip, and they also have a rubberized cap, so opening them is really easy. On the Orly website, they retail for $10.50 USD each, so I'll link that down below. They're also available from a bunch of different retailers, so I'll leave some options in the description as well. But yeah, I'm really curious to hear what everybody thinks. For people like me who don't really enjoy springy colors, I'm curious to hear if you like these. And like I said, people who prefer those dusty pastel kind of shades, what do you think of brighter collections like this? Leave it all in the comments. We can chat about it. If you enjoy my swatch and review videos, please hit that like button. It really helps me out. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And of course, a huge thank you to my supporters on Patreon, my royal astronomer Amanda M, as well as my cosmic admirals Paula, Ken, Rosie, and Angel. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Ooh, this is a good one. Today's fun fact question comes from Patreon supporter Megan D, and Megan D wants to know, how many polishes of your collabs do you keep for your collection? I know if it were me, I would want so many backups. Honestly, I love to have as many as possible just because I love to give them to friends and family. So I always request a bunch of bottles of my collabs, but then I always end up giving almost all of them away. But I do like to keep one set of my collab stuff that I just do not touch and do not use, just to kind of like save it as a memory. So I do try to have at least one copy. There have been collabs in the past that I've done that I didn't end up getting an extra set of, but now I always try to save one for myself that I don't use, and then I obviously like to have one that I use regularly. So I do like to wear them a lot, but I don't want to ever reach into my little capsule collection of collab stuff. So yeah, I would love to at some point install a shelf where I can just have like a shelf of my collabs and just be able to look at them and appreciate them. So maybe that's something I can do down the line in this room. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.